I sat quietly at my brother's engagement dinner until he introduced me as someone he barely knew. What happened next destroyed everything he built. Asterisk disclaimer: this story is purely fictional and created for entertainment purposes only. Any resemblance to real people, events, or situations is purely coincidental. The night of my brother Samir's engagement dinner was supposed to be simple, maybe even a little proud. I arrived outside the grand restaurant, adjusting my jacket, trying to fit into a world that didn't feel like mine. The building shimmered with warm golden lights, and through the glass doors I could see neatly dressed guests, laughing, holding expensive drinks, and speaking in calm, confident tones. This wasn't how we grew up. We came from a small home where every rupee mattered, where luxury meant ordering food once a month. But tonight, Samir had built something entirely different, something polished and impressive, and I wanted to be there for him. As I stepped inside, the air felt heavier, filled with perfume and quiet judgment. My shoes echoed softly against the marble floor. I spotted Samir almost instantly. He stood near a long table, laughing with a group of well-dressed guests. For a moment, I felt proud. He looked successful, confident, like someone who had truly made it. But the second his eyes met mine, his smile faded. It wasn't just surprise, it was discomfort, almost fear. He quickly walked toward me, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His voice dropped as he spoke, low and tense. He asked why I was there, as if I didn't belong, as if I had shown up uninvited. I reminded him that he had invited me himself, but instead of apologizing, he just warned me not to embarrass him. That sentence hit harder than I expected. It wasn't anger in his voice. It was caution, like I was a risk to his image. Still, I swallowed the feeling and nodded. I didn't want to create a scene. Not tonight. I took my seat at the table, trying to stay unnoticed. The dinner began with soft music in the background and servers moving gracefully between guests. Conversations flowed easily. People spoke about careers, investments, and achievements. Samir was at the center of it all, telling stories that made him sound impressive and accomplished. I listened quietly, noticing how carefully he chose his words. It was like he had rehearsed this version of himself. Every sentence was designed to impress. Then came the moment that changed everything. The judge, his fiancée's father, turned his attention toward me. His voice was calm but direct as he asked who I was. Before I could even open my mouth, Samir answered for me. He called me a friend, someone from the same neighborhood. That was it. No name, no connection, no truth. Just a stranger with a vague past. For a second I couldn't process what I had just heard. My mind went blank. I stared at him, waiting for him to correct himself, to fix it, to say something real. But he didn't even look at me. The conversation continued as if nothing had happened, but inside me, everything shifted. Memories flooded back, shared struggles, late nights, sacrifices I had made so he could have better opportunities. I had stood beside him when no one else did. And now, in the moment that mattered most to him, he erased me completely. The pain wasn't loud. It was quiet and sharp, settling deep inside. But along with it came clarity. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of panic. Samir had chosen this. He had decided that I didn't fit into the life he was trying to present. I looked around the table again, noticing details I had missed before. The way he avoided certain questions. The way he exaggerated his success. The way his answers sounded just a little too perfect. Slowly, a realization formed. He wasn't just hiding me. He was hiding the truth about himself. I leaned back slightly, observing him more carefully now. Every word he spoke felt calculated. Every story had just enough detail to sound believable, but not enough to be questioned deeply. The judge listened, nodding occasionally, but I could sense a layer of doubt behind his calm expression. Samir was walking on a thin line, trying to maintain an image that wasn't fully real. That's when my thoughts shifted. The hurt was still there, but it was no longer controlling me. Instead, I felt something steadier, more focused. I knew things about Samir that no one else at that table knew. I had seen the truth behind the image, the struggles, the shortcuts, the problems he had hidden. I had helped him deal with those problems, often without recognition. I knew exactly how fragile his perfect story was. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, keeping my movements subtle. The conversation at the table continued, but my attention was elsewhere. I opened my email and hesitated for just a moment. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about timing. About showing the truth in a way that couldn't be ignored. Then I typed a short message and attached the proof I had. Documents, records, details that painted a very different picture of Samir's life. I sent it directly to the judge. A few minutes passed before anything changed. The judge's phone lit up and he glanced at it casually. At first, there was no reaction. But then he looked again, this time more carefully. His expression shifted slightly, almost unnoticeable, but enough to change the atmosphere. He scrolled through the message, reading in silence. The conversations around the table began to slow down, as if people could sense something was off. Samir kept talking, unaware of what was happening. He continued presenting his polished version of reality, but the foundation beneath him was already cracking. The judge finally looked up, his face no longer warm or impressed. There was a seriousness now, a quiet authority that demanded attention. When he spoke, his voice was calm but firm, pointing out inconsistencies in what Samir had said. Samir's confidence faltered instantly. He tried to laugh it off, to brush it aside as a misunderstanding. But it didn't work. The room had already shifted. People were paying closer attention now. Watching. Waiting. The control Samir had carefully maintained throughout the evening was slipping away. Then his eyes found mine. And in that moment, everything changed between us. He knew. He understood exactly what had happened and who had caused it. The same person he had dismissed as a stranger was now the one holding the truth that could undo him. Sometimes the deepest betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from the people you trust the most. That night wasn't just about revenge. It was about truth finding its way to the surface. Samir built a perfect image, but forgot one thing. The past doesn't disappear, it waits. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful and emotional stories. And remember, respect the people who stood with you when you had nothing, because one day, they might be the only ones who truly know your story.